Hey, Tara.
What's up? Oh my God, we're back.
I am so excited. I can't believe it's been a minute, but I am really excited about today's talk. So, first, Tara, you want to give the introduction?
Okay, well, first of all, can we just say hi to everybody? It's
Yeah.
been a minute. We have missed y'all so much. I know it's been a while since we've been online, but we've been thinking about you. We've been doing good work. We've been watching y'all do good work, and so we're so happy you're back with us. For anyone, if it's your first time with us, welcome. We are the Solo CEOs. We are a community of people of individuals who are building our own businesses. We're serious about our businesses, but we're not trying to scale massively. And we create resources and support for people just like us.
Yes. And we have been, like Tara said, over the last several months, we've been working hard, like a lot of solopreneurs do. And so, a lot of times you don't see us, but we actually have been broadcasting podcasts, and we have some great things that we're going to talk about at the end of the show. But first, I am so excited about our guest, Tara. I keep saying hello to everybody because I'm like, can we bring her on? Can we bring her on? I have to just do the quick introduction, and this lady really will just blow your mind. Kali Patrice is our guest today. Yay! We
Yay.
love guests, but Kali has actually been with us for years. I mean, Tara, how long have you known Kali?
I think I met Kali in 2000.
So that
I've known Kali for a very long time.
right. And we have seen Kali change different categories and still keep just the presence of the solopreneur. And one thing that Tara and I, when we were talking about this session, we were like, we want people to really fully understand and embrace all of the things that Kali has done, but most importantly, how cool it is when you see her to go, I want some of that. Like that's all we kept saying is, I want to be free like Kali. Oh, I just made a rhyme, y'all. Anyway, very prolific, right? I would like to introduce Miss Kali Patrice. She is known as the hair whisperer, but she has built businesses over the last 20 plus years, and it didn't all start out where it ended up. And she's still growing and going. Terry, you want to add to that?
I do. Right. So, like, first of all, if you have not read her bio, you need to read it. She has 30 plus years of experience with everything from being a hairstylist to formulating product to doing personal brand. But the resume by itself, the bio is incredibly impressive. But I need to tell you about this person that I have grown to know and love over
Yes.
these past 24 years. Kali Patrice is probably one of the like in the best way, the most beautiful galaxy brains I know. Like the fact that she could do everything from marketing to strategic thinking to personal branding to styling.
Mhm.
And there's this thread of authenticity. There's this thread of creativity. There's this thread
Yeah.
of her beautiful engineering mind, how she figured things out. And she has been amazing with transversing all these different arenas but following her passion. She's probably the person that first got me connected with this idea that you can take anything that is your love, your passion, your skills, and you can find a way to get closer to it, even if you're not working exactly into it. And I use that with a lot of my clients. And Kali was one of the first people that inspired that in me. And so, whether you know Kali from how hot my hair looks, whether you know Kali from some of the marketing consulting that she's done, whether you know Kali from the big presence that she's been doing now with the Hair Whisperer and Hair Camp. I don't know how you know her, but she's amazing. She changes lives in all these little ways, and I cannot wait to bring her on screen. Welcome to Kali Patrice.
Hey, Kali. Welcome.
Hello. I'm like, oh my
And
God.
y'all, we forgot you so pleasant.
Oh my God. I was like,
Thank you for joining us.
thank you for having me. And Tara, thank you for that heartwarming, um, misty intro from the heart. Oh my gosh.
I just need people to see you. Anyone that doesn't know you to know you like I do,
Oh,
right? And so, which It begs the question. Let's start off with your origin story, right? So, how does an engineer become the original hair whisperer?
Well, I think it's actually the other way around. How does a hair whisperer become an engineer? And then it turns on itself. So my first love from the beginning, from childhood, was hair, and I wanted just to do hair. And my parents were upwardly mobile people and saw that I had a propensity for aptitude for STEM stuff, and said, "Nope, it won't be that. Pick something else." And so they allowed me to continue doing hair, and I did. And then I, pursued a degree in chemical engineering because I figured, oh, okay, well, I can make hair care products, and so I can keep doing hair and I can make hair care products. And I thought I could be a hair engineer. I thought I could be a hair engineer, and and then I just kind of continued, went down that path, and followed the path, led to another path, unfolded. I got finished my degree, and then I went and started formulating hair care products. I loved that. And then I started a family, and I thought, ooh, I think I need to focus on my family, and took a pause from things related to hair, but never stopped doing hair. I've been doing hair since I was 12 years old. I mean, there was 30 days when I moved to Chicago that I didn't do hair because I wasn't licensed, and that I remember. But everything else I've been doing hair, and so, and then I started a company that would allow me to do hair in the background, and do some other things. So I've always, hair lit the path. My passion lit the path. But engineering is a discipline of just solving problems. And so I, got involved with starting a company, and there was always a new problem to solve, a new thing to analyze. And I think, and here I am today. I mean, I became, I don't know if I think I've become the hair engineer. I think I've become a hair engineer, you know? So.
Yet another category you invented?
Well, hey, how about this? Don't sleep. How about what Spelman has done? And I don't, hey, it didn't exist, but there's a whole discipline now centered around, yay, go Spelman. I mean, it's great for the school. It's great for the students, and it's magnificent for the industry. I do think that there's a way in which the creative and the engineering, the creative and the technical collide and make something. There are synergies there. And so I was never willing to let one go. That's the simple answer. Is how does a hair whisperer become a engineer, or which way you asked it, is I just was determined to do both. I wouldn't put one down. I mean, in school, people would say, well, which one are you more? I mean, like, are you an engineer, or are you a hairstylist? And I was like, I'm both. And that didn't start to be allowable until very recently.
Yeah.
So
Kali, something that, because you just gave us a really high level view of how you started out to where you are today, but I want to dig a little deeper, because a lot of people in our audience, especially those solopreneurs, they really have a tangle between my corporate life, my professional life and degree, and my passion. At what point did you say enough of one to go even further into being dedicated to just the hair care industry and just doing what you love? Because that's scary for a lot of people. How did you even get through that?
Well, I don't think it was a one and done. How about that? I think there, at every point in time, you've heard over and over, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. I think that my passions shifted, and I did what was in alignment with my passions at the time. So for when my passion could be, I wanted to formulate hair care products, and that's where I was. I love that. I mean, that was a time in my life where I was like, they give me a check. It felt like cheating. I was doing what I would have done for free, and they kept giving me these checks, and they were really nice checks. So that was a season, right? And I kind of thought it was young enough that I'm like, okay, the goal becomes to stay here in this, where you go to work and you're in flow and you're paid well for it. And then I started a family, and I thought, oh, well, now this is my new passion. And so I went and I made cheese for a while. I mean, I did something different. I used the chemistry of processed cheese is the same as the chemistry of hair relaxers. So I did that for a minute.
That is probably the scariest statement I've ever heard anyone say on these.
Right,
on these-
right.
Chemistry, the chemistry, not the product, the chemistry. So the emulsion chemistry, and then I came back. When I realized, okay, I think I can do both. I think I can do I think I can start a business and have a family. I tried them. And then at some point I just said, okay, if I fail, I'll come back. I mean, I think corporate's always going to be there. I think that's where I got to, is it it's not going anywhere. It's always going to be there. I'm in that same season now as it's like, I'm in a season of redefinition. And so things are kind of falling away. So I think that's how I got to it, is corporate's not going anywhere. It's going to be there for you. And I'm from a family of entrepreneurs. I think that helped. So I had examples or role models of you can make your own money. I knew it could be done. It could be done. I'd seen people do it. So I think it's that.
One of the things that, you talk about being from a family of entrepreneurs, I knew entrepreneurs, people that they set up their shop and they worked it until the shop wasn't viable anymore. The thing that I've always really been so inspired by with you is that you've kind of branched out in lots of different directions, right? So they're like, at times, like Kali's written a book, and for those of you who don't know, Kali works on a documentary in her spare time. And Kali's has HairCamp, and she had a personal branding business, right? And so the fact that it isn't just that you're an entrepreneur or even a serial entrepreneur, but it seems like you've taken this passion and love and kind of exploded in 360 degrees. What have you learned about taking this thing that you love, your superpowers, and moving them in different contexts? Because that seems a little scary to me, honestly.
Yeah.
So I want to say this because I don't think I've ever said it out loud. One day I was sitting on the floor in an airport, back when you could go to the airport when you didn't have it, didn't even have a ticket. And I was sitting under a payphone, just putting you all in.
Okay, now we're in a time machine.
I was young enough. I was in my 20s, and I was sitting on the floor, sitting under a payphone near the exit, like where the gate where people come off, and walking toward me was Maya Angelou.
Oh my God.
And she looked like, from looking up, she looked like she was 10 feet tall. And I, in my spirit, just felt, I want to be that. I mean, I just, in every ounce of me was like, that is, I feel like what I sensed was her freedom, her agency. And later I watched an interview where she basically said something that resonated with me. She said, she had done different things. And I didn't follow her life that closely. I think I just dismissed or didn't know of the rule that you can, when something was doing well and performing well, I gave it attention. If that stopped doing well, the season seemed to shift. Then I gave my attention to something else, or if my energy was elsewhere. And I hope that I've done that without keeping people whole and making things better along the way, never just kind of slashing and burning. My highest priority since I had children has been, family. And so to do the thing that's right for them. But I think it never stops being scary. I mean, it's scary each time I've done it. But the words I've heard that were most representative are you afraid of failing? And the rejection of failing? Are you more afraid of the regret of, suppose I don't do this thing? And for me, the fear of regret associated with, suppose I don't live long enough to do it. Suppose I can't, my time here is finite. So I'm going to try it. And what's the worst thing that could happen? So I think it's not that I've not been afraid at every point. I can say I've been healthily afraid with every pivot.
Healthily afraid. That's a quote.
Right. But you know what, Tara and Kali, what happens a lot of times times when you talk to people who are in business or starting business, it's the fear that it's like they hit that wall of fear and then they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm going to turn around. And so when you were doing this and you're like, okay, this is not comfortable.
Yeah. What
You just kept going. Yeah, it's something you really just kept going. And so in doing that, walking through what I would call the wall of fear, girl, you walked into creating something so incredibly unique. Was it even deliberate? Like, you start out with, hey, I've always been a hair whisperer, even before I had a real name, to an engineer. Did you even know that you were creating something incredibly unique?
So what's interesting is, no, I mean, I don't know. I knew I was creating something that didn't exist.
Okay.
Right. I knew I was creating something that didn't exist. And I knew that I had done that. I saw that I was doing that repetitively. That, to me, that's the only reason to be in business. To me, right, is to make something that is, it's either accentuating my life in a way that it doesn't exist for me, or it doesn't exist for the world. And so I didn't necessarily know how hyper unique it was, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it, so I built it. But I think what exists now, so speaking specifically about the HairCamp Home Edition, the digital platform that's accessible from anywhere to put hair knowledge and personal transformation in a box for people to experience. No, I didn't know that happened by accident. I had spent 15 years with the image studios, building a personal branding and image communication firm. That, I think, I learned so much from that. I mean, the first 5 years was even just figuring out, how do you do this? How do you, can you work on a billable hour for personal care services? What is personal branding? Wasn't a word. That whole thing of where does personal transformation intersect with visual identity and self-expression? I had an intention to build. Okay. Then when the pandemic happened, and just the hair piece was the piece that couldn't, people had us on retainer and had hair needs. Hair needs don't really wait. There was this prompt for, you should do this virtually. And I was like, you can't do hair virtually. You can't. I mean, I can't teach people how to do their own hair, because that's the difference, right? With everything in our business has been teaching you how to do, teaching you how to maintain, teaching you how to show up on point every day. I was like, you can't do that virtually. So it was actually a client that said, yeah, I think you can. And she documented it. She just kept asking me questions. True story. I mean, she has a business called Life Doula, Gail Walker. She's absolutely fantastic. But
she's actually in the live stream.
Oh, shout out, mad love for those. Everybody needs a life doula.
Amen.
That's a lot of how I got my life.
Let's see. I'm trying to put. I want to get Krista. Can you put Gail back on the screen for us?
Oh, she's on the screen. Oh, she's here.
I'm trying to get her comment in, and of course.
Oh, okay. So basically, she just kind of said, she kept asking me questions, and she was like, "I'm about to cut my hair myself," and someone cheers, and I was like, "Don't do that. I'll get online with you. Let's And she at some point, after a month or two had passed, or 3, she texted me, "This is where I started, and here's where I am," and it was virtual, kind of like, let's go. And so that's how it started. That's literally how it started, and it just was an incremental change, an incremental build, showing it to people. Does this help you? What else does it need to be? Yeah. So.
Okay, so you didn't even know you're creating something unique. Gail knew, but you didn't even know.
It sounds like we need Gail.
like everybody needs a Gail in their life is what I heard. That's a lesson away.
Man, everybody needs a life doula. It's true.
But what I think is important is, like, let's talk through, how do you create something unique, something that never existed? Like, I wouldn't even know where to start. And that's something that's really inspiring to me.
Yeah. How do you create something that never?
So you have a million ideas. Everything's wrong with this world. Just so you know, like I don't like this, I don't like this. How did you know this was the one to move forward versus all the other ideas in your head?
So so this is where the nerd in me comes out. I started the spreadsheet, and that got me in trouble with somebody that hired me. Is I build from the spreadsheet up. So the first thing I do is I run numbers. I think in terms of, I get out an Excel spreadsheet, and I now know it's running the financials, which is usually the hardest part for people. But I actually just do it to kind of look at, is this a thing? Like, how does it work? Who's buying? Who's, what is it? How do you make? So I start from the spreadsheet, and then I write a lot about it, and then I write the vision. I really do, write it down. I audio record things, and then when it's solid, I start asking people about it. And what's funny is that can't be the acid test, because if I asked everybody I asked about the image studios before it came to be, they said, oh no, I wouldn't pay extra for that. No. I want it. That's nice, but I'm not going to pay any more money for one-on-one. I'm not going to pay to be one-on-one with a personal care provider. I'm like, today there's an industry, there's a whole salon suites, personal, like now it exists in mass, right? But people are like, I won't pay for that. No. So I ask people, but then to get more information to figure out how it needs to be refined. And then if it seems like it's, an opportunity, then I try to fail really fast.
Interesting.
Okay.
Say more. Say more. We don't want to say less. Tell me about this failing fast.
That was a sigh of like experience.
No, what it's a sigh of? It's a sigh of, is this applicable to dating too? It's a sigh of the failing fast, I think, is such a really valuable principle. Like, now it has a name for it. Is that you just go hard, you go hard for it, and you dedicate attention, intention, and energy to it, to test it. And if it's not going to work, allow it to not work quickly, right? So don't be lukewarm about it, and just really go all in and see what happens, right? Yeah. And I think normalizing failure is a huge value, and it's been a huge value in my life. Is just saying, okay, well, if it's not going to work, let's let it not work quick. That
makes sense.
Let's let it not work. Like let's figure out whether or not this is going to work quickly, so I can get back to doing something else if it's not gonna work. But that's my process. Is I do start with the numbers. I do write it out. If I can't picture it, I know I can't build it. I can't picture it if I can't see it clearly. And then talking to people about it, asking people about it, helps clarify that vision some. And then I start testing it. I mean, most everything started out as a test.
Okay, so how do you not get your ego caught up in failing fast, right? So because for some people, the first time you hit failure, people kind of pull back and don't try again.
I know. What do I say for that? I think that's where that woo-woo kind of just that spirit piece comes in there. I mean, my faith is how I have done a lot of that. It's just really believing I'm created not by any other human being. I am here, created in magnificence for a purpose, and I'm not my mistakes. I'm more than I probably even imagine. And the only thing I have for it is faith. And I actually don't know how people do life without faith. In the sense that the faith that they are built for a purpose, out of nothing made I became, you became, we became. And so the mistake is a mistake. A failure is a failure. And we're still here, Yeah. I'm a student of the Bible. So I read about this dude named David. And I'm like, if he got a place in the Bible, I'm good. Like I got plenty more mess ups. I mean, it's just, or just historical figures, like looking at lives. I kind of look real closely and I read books about people and it's just massive failures.
Yeah.
I mean, massive, Abraham Lincoln, doesn't matter. It's like there's failures everywhere in people's lives. And so that's how I do it. I mean,
yeah. What's interesting too is not only does failure actually help you lead to your next success, but when you're talking about something, you're creating something that no one has ever heard of, just putting the words together to explain it, it's a combination, I feel, of thriller. It's kind of thrilling, but it's one of those
Thriller.
yeah, it's thriller, right? So you're putting it together, and do you even think of outcomes at this point? Like when you're failing fast and you figured out, you know what? Yeah, this actually has some legs to it.
Yeah.
What do I want my outcome to look like? Do you even think of stuff like that?
I do. I do. And I think that's magical, to be able to imagine how big something could be, but to hold on to it loosely.
Ooh.
Tell me more about that.
Yes.
So I mean, I have big visions for what oh, by the way, is personal care. So like this business that is just the DBA of the company that was started in 2000 when I met Tara. That's what's ironic, right? After I had my second child. And so I've had a manifesto for what that business would be for now decades. And it's written and it exists. If it coming to be won't be the way I expected, won't be in the type of the end game might wind up being what I expected, but it won't. The path will definitely not have looked as I expected. And so that's what I'm saying. The hold on loosely thing is to really trust that, all right, this is a shift, or this isn't what I expected, but it's working in my favor. So let me go down this path and see where this goes. And if it feels right, and I don't mean just loosely like woo woo, like is this comfortable for me? Most of the things are uncomfortable. Is this the appropriate mix of uncomfortable? So like, tension around I'm going to learn something, and energizing, like I'm excited by it. And if it is, then I kind of feel like, okay, it's enough for me to hold that vision.
Yeah.
For the vision. So, but I don't glam onto it has to be this way. I try not to hold on to it has to be this way, and just trust that the end game is what it is that I'm after.
Okay.
And the end game is very clear. The end game is provisioning for my for people for generations to come, like to make things better for many, right? To allow people access to self-expression and personal transformation, to be a light and an inspiration, just to make every situation better than leave every situation better than I found it, and to just be able to kind of magnify that over time. And so there are numbers attached to that, but I don't know if my numbers are right. I mean, like my numbers are based on what I can see, So yeah, I do. I have big visions. They're big for me. And I try to be flexible. And when I find that I'm not flexible, I dig for why I'm afraid. So like if I'm my dad in many ways in my life is remarkable. I wrote an article about him, like just softening the ego, because he's somebody that I just watched be to me, in many ways, the epitome of flexibility. There was so little that he tried to control. It was kind of like okay, if that's what you think you should do, then you do that. And and when and what I have come to realize is that flexibility requires, there's a lot more strength in flexibility
Yeah.
Yeah.
than we would imagine, and a lot more courage and flexibility, and a lot more trust in flexibility,
Mm-hmm.
trusting that it's going to be okay. And so when I am holding on to, like, I know this needs to be this way, I just dig into, what am I afraid of, which I do think is just part of the entrepreneurial journey, is that,
Yeah.
as many of us, entrepreneurship is going to make you're going to learn stuff about yourself. There's no place to hide. There's no place to run. There's no place to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have this really big vision. You see a need for something. You've now talked to a bunch of people, and those people are like, nah, I wouldn't pay for that, right? And you're like, no, this is this idea. So you put something. You're like, I'm gonna do this. How do you build awareness for something that people don't even know that they need, and in fact have told you, I'm not sure I need that. So like,
and I'm not buying it.
Okay, so real talk. This is really great, because in 2000, 24 years ago, not quite 24, but 24 years ago, I did it by giving things away free. And I'm about to learn something, I can tell. So I just started giving it away. I started giving it away and saying, but this is what it really costs. Giving it away, but this is what it really costs. And then people were like, okay, well, I'm ready to buy it. And it was word of mouth, and it spread, and it spread, and that business grew 20 to 40% year over year for 7 consecutive years until the downturn, until 2008.
Said 20 to 40% with a straight face. She was like, it was 20.
And it was, but I started very small. So this is lesson number 1. I started too small. And this is the reason why it's so important for entrepreneurs, for people of diverse backgrounds, to have access to capital, because I started with $25,000. Imagine if I had started with $250,000. My ideas were no smaller. I started very, very, very small. And so that's how I grew it then. This thing that I've built, which is truly scalable, like this version of it, which is scalable, I don't know. I'm 2 years in and realize, oh shit, I don't know how to sell. I don't know how to get the word out about this. That's not me. I need somebody else to do that. I need capital, or I need to go put myself in a room, which, I'm a pun, go put myself in a room and figure this shit out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I think it's energy. It's energy. So that's the engineer, right? The physics. It's just energy. So you can generate the energy yourself. You're doing it, focusing, or you can get money and hire. The money is energy, and you hire somebody else to do it. It's just, it needs to bring anything to life requires energy.
Right. And Kali, with all of that, like you said, you started too small, which many of us started. We bootstrapped it.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the people in our audience who are watching us bootstrapped it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you rely your community on? Because it's very clear that you know exactly your strengths, but as far as your community of friends, like you had the doula, what do you rely on your community? How do they help you?
They are, they're it.
Mm-hmm.
They're it. There are very few people around me who, I think, that don't believe in what it is. I think they're inspiring. I'm not saying believe in me, believe in something that they visualize that isn't yet come into existence yet. I'm surrounded by people who are visionary, who are courageous, that's why it's so interesting to hear, like, a Tara or you to talk about me in that way. I'm like, that's you. Like, wow, that's amazing. You think about me that way. That's great. So I lean very heavily on my tribe and my community for, what they know that I don't, and also to go in and spend time. I was with, Gail this morning when you're when I feel like, okay, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't got it, for those folks to be there and to remind you, to remind me who I am, to remind me who I am. So I lean on, the strength of my community, old relationships, new relationships. I like to think I don't give up a lot of relationships, because they just build. They just build. The same people relationships that I had that were people that I styled when I went to do the documentary film were the same people that I was calling saying, you know what, I think this might be a cool investment opportunity. Are you interested in this? Does this fit for you? And so, yeah, I mean, I think just
the community helps.
I hope they feel helped. As I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, I hope they feel helped.
As a member of that community, yes, we do.
Right. I want to remind
on behalf of the rest of us.
I want to remind people, please drop your questions in the comments so you can get some of the great advice from Kali, because you guys, I'm going to tell you, Tara and I have an advantage over a lot of people. We have the opportunity to speak with Kali all the time. This is a busy, busy lady. So please drop your questions in, because there are things that you probably want to find out that we don't have time for the whole next 30 minutes, but we will try and get to them.
We'll try to get as many as possible.
Yeah.
We'll try and get as many as possible. Definitely.
I thought of something but I'll pause if you have another question, but I thought of something as you were talking that I think is kind of interesting. When you asked about leaning on your tribe, that question that you ask, I think is also part of why people don't necessarily do the thing. Is an awareness of capacity. Yes. What I mean is awareness of personal capacity is saying, when I started my family, I left hair completely. I was doing hair a little bit, but I left hair because I didn't know, like, how will I have the capacity to do this and this? And because I didn't have a bench, I didn't have my family close by. I was in a city that I didn't know. And in retrospect, I look and I think, gosh, what would it have been like to have had the ability the knowledge at that time to say, well, what about if I get help? What about if I say, I need this for, I'm going to need this resource or that resource. I have somebody around me. And so today I do that. Today I recognize through, Gail's concept of life doula, recognize that, oh no, you don't need to be able to do it all. You need to source the ability to do all the things. And I think that that's deep down why sometimes we don't do the thing, because we doubt we have the capacity, or we know we don't have the capacity. We know if I do this, it's going to stress me out. It could possibly cost me my health. If I do this, I'm not sure my kids will be well taken care of. If I do this, can my marriage survive this? Right? It's about, and we weren't intended to do the stuff alone. We were intended to have a lot of help. So I think that's asking for the how, and not when I say asking for the what must I do? What do I need to accomplish this goal is a better way than saying, can I? Like, what do I need to accomplish the goal? Who do I need? Help do I need? And allow for that to show up in our lives. Does that make sense?
That's so powerful, Kali. It does. I was just working with a great group. Shout out to the Highland Project that is funding women with big ideas. And one of the things that they're learning is so oftentimes what you may need is to pay a babysitter for 2 days a week, just so you can have blocks to work on your idea, right? Help can be what gives me the time or the energy to do the things I need to do, or what things can I offset. And I don't think I think oftentimes solopreneurs are so used to doing everything by themselves or for themselves that they don't think about the things that it's not that they can't do them.
Right.
And may be helpful to not do them.
And we also think that what it is what we see. So I'm going to give you an example. Like at the point at which I was, the image studios had grown to the point where I was like, it could run on its own without me. And I was ready to do something else, frankly. And so I was, deciding, all right, I want to go get a job. And I never found that job. I wound up doing consulting. But I will tell you this, before I started doing consulting, because I fell into it, I couldn't get arrested. And I hired a coach to be like, okay, what's the problem here? And she said, it seems to me you have a job. And I said, what job? What do you see that I don't see? She said, every month or two, somebody calls you and asks you to help them launch their business. And you do it, and you're like, I can only do it for a month, though, or for 2 months, because then I got to get back to looking for a job. And she was like, if you actually charged what you're worth for that, and was willing to say, and I'll help you for a year or 18 months, you'd have a job. And so I said, oh, and I was just like, but I don't want to have any more staff. I was basically saying I want to be a solopreneur. I've got a thing over there that's doing that. I don't want to do that anymore, and she was like, that's okay. You can do that. That's what consulting is. And so I'm going to shorten the story. So my first consulting gig, I said, all right, well, I know I want to make $20,000 over the course of the next 2 months, which was crazy compared to the nothing that I had. My mentor said, take yourself off of payroll at the image studio so you'll find a job.
Quickly.
Lay yourself off. You'll find a job. And so I want to, make 20K. And so I said it out loud. I was like, I want to earn $20,000 in the next 2 months. And what would I need? Okay, well, I need, and so I went and just started looking for things. So then I got this opportunity that these people were going to pay me to redesign a line, line that they redesign, take a look at a line they were trying to launch and kind of refine it. And so I said, this is great, but now I don't have childcare for my teenagers. So now what I need is, who's going to watch my kids? If I take this job, if I take this offer that's going to require 60 hours of work a week, who's going to watch my kids? I need somebody to watch my kids. And then my cousin calls, and I'm saying sometimes it's just being willing to take the next step and then say out loud the next thing that we need, and just say it out loud. And then my cousin called and said, my cousin I adore. So it's not like just a cousin. Like my cousin that I love called and said, hey, I was wondering if I could move to Chicago and stay with you for a few months to do an internship. Yeah. Can you watch my kids? And I'd love to, it was it was perfect, but being willing to just take the next step, and then say out loud what the next thing is that we need, and kind of see what appears and see what shows up for us.
You know what? Something you said that is really the epitome of running your own business. Like you said, say it out loud and then accept the help.
Accept the help. However it comes.
Some of us think this is our baby and accept the help.
Accept the help however it comes.
Because it might not, you would have never been able to guess that a cousin would call just out of nowhere.
Right.
But once these unexpected things happen, then you said something earlier about flexibility.
Yeah.
Accept the help and be flexible, because you could not have scripted that.
No. And I could have easily also looked at it as, Lord, somebody else to live in the house, something else to do.
Right.
As opposed to, wait, could you help me with my kids?
Right.
Kali, there's a question that came in that was posted, but let me we'll get it back on the screen. The question was, how do your creative talents and your engineering skills show up in your work, right? And I think I probably want to add to that question. Like, you said that you're a hair person and an engineer at the same time, but like, how? What parts of you, like, where is the engineer, where's the creativity in the work that you're doing now?
Where's the, so there, for this period, they're indistinguishable to me. I bring all of, I live naturally bring all of me to
Yeah.
what it is that I do. And I toss away the notion that they're different. So the engineering piece is very much problem solving. It's asking the right questions. Like I said, the question is like, not like, can I have this, but how do I get this? And it's really important now for AI because they're all prompts. It's asking the right questions.
Right.
So that's the engineer, is root cause analysis. Like, okay, this looks like it's the problem, but this is the real problem. Why did that happen? Asking the 5 whys. That's technical or engineering. And then creative is in the world of infinite possibilities. I mean, it's really the journaling, writing, sketching, and envisioning what's not there. That's the creative, and envisioning it beautiful and getting excited about it. So I think that's it. I think that the engineer is the critique and the analysis, and the creative is the possibilities and the vision. And it's every single thing is, both of those two things are important.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Now, Kali, we have a question coming from William, and he says he tends to overthink some great ideas to the point of paralysis or fear of failure, and he doesn't move forward. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, William. For you. I feel you. Yes, my advice would be ask yourself what's the worst thing that could happen, right? It's not, and I'm borrowing this advice from one of my best friends, Wendy Moten, is she was going to do The Voice, and she said that she was terrified. She didn't want to do it because it was just, she felt like might have been career suicide for her. And she was like, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that nobody turns around, no chairs turn. And then just decide what that means about you. Okay. Like, what am I afraid of? It means, and she was like, doesn't mean I can't sing. It means I'm not for them. So I think that ask yourself the worst thing that could happen. And then what does that say about you? Is the thing you feel is the worst thing that happen is what you've determined that it's going to say about you? Is that true? Like, if I fail and if I lose everything, that means I'm a failure. Does it really mean that? Okay. And just dig into the truth and then take a step. Once you answer the question of what's the worst thing that can happen, what does it mean about me, then usually in that you can find the courage to take a step. If in fact it'll reveal the lie. It'll reveal the lie. And I think overthinking is rationalizing, is a way of entertaining our fears. I think overthinking is that. It's the way of giving our fears fuel. And that's not it doesn't help, right? And the way to shut it down is to say which part of this is true and which part of this is what I don't know. And all the action, my mentor Kwame Salter said, all the action happens in the unknown. So just reframing.
All the action happens in the unknown.
And I think his exact quote is, so get it right, the unknown is where all the action happens.
Interesting.
Okay, that's scary.
Yeah, so we don't know, right?
It's scary and beautiful and motivating, and it's so scary, which you've just told me it's okay to be scared.
See?
What's the best advice I ever received?
Yes.
Oh, Jen, that's really hard. The best advice I've ever received. So one of the really great pieces of advice that I've received was to write an affirmation. It was a point in my life when things weren't going as expected and I really was down about it. And that's when I met my mentor formally as my mentor. And I showed up in the hall and I kind of was like, hey, and he's like, I don't even recognize you. I don't know who you are. And he pulled me into his office and he just was like, I need you to write an affirmation. And I said, well, what's that? He said, it's stating the present tense, stating the future state in present tense. And I wrote an affirmation out. And I think, Tara, once upon a time, I might have even shared this affirmation with you. Did I? Am I remembering that correctly?
You did, yeah.
And I wrote it out and I could barely say it. It was that distant that I would lay on the floor, and I'm just giving it all to you raw because it's the truth. It was so distant and so seemingly unachievable that I would start a business one day, and other things that I wanted. My family, my family would run smoothly. That I get through a few lines, I lay on the floor in the bathroom and cry. And I couldn't even get it out. But eventually I came to be able to say it, and eventually it all became true. And then eventually I gave it away, and kind of like, I don't know if this will work for you, but so write affirmation has been and continually writing affirmations, stating the future state in present tense has been a great piece of advice that has fed me well.
So you don't have to share it if you don't want to, but do you currently have a new affirmation that you're working with?
I do. And it's so funny. Self magazine years ago asked me to share my affirmation, and I was kind of like, I don't know. Oh. And I don't remember whether or not I did. But it felt very intrusive. So the short answer is I have a long affirmation that will take too long for me to say here, but I do have it is committed to memory. But the short version, which I'll say to myself repetitively through the day, is I am blessed, healthy, wealthy, wise, loved, and loving. I am blessed, healthy. But my longer version of my affirmation is more specific. Because I have found when you ask for things, and I have found when I ask for things or I name things and expect things and I'm not specific, I get the unspecific version, and I'm usually way less pleased with it than if I had been more specific. So I hope that helps, Jen. I hope that helps. If I think of something else, think of other great advice, then I will share it. Nobody's told me this, but I read it and I do think it's true, which is if you wait till you're not scared, you will not move. And I do think I think that's really phenomenal advice.
Mm-hmm. So that actually builds on the next thing that was in my head, because you've given us some really nice nuggets, right? Like things you wish you had known, like wish we started with more money, right? Like because it takes the same amount of effort to do it. Like, and so are there other things that you wish you had known? Like if we could rewind before you started this process?
So I wish I'd known to have my idea and sell my idea. People buy ideas first, people second, things third. I think that's the way it goes, right? So I wish I had, and I will this time when I have the slightest bit of proof, I will be like, this is the idea. Here's what it can do conceptually. Sell it then. Okay.
Okay. I want to highlight that, like, because I want to make sure everyone heard what you said.
Okay.
Like when I have the idea, sell the idea. You don't have to go all the way to proof positive. Like I've got all these results. Wait to sell it to whoever you need to sell it to. Like, so I want to make sure that they heard you very clearly. Like when you have the concept and a good concept, sell that.
Yes. Okay. And maybe some proof, but the proof could be, this is what the market demands, or this is what the survey says, or whatever, but trying to prove it out myself, I don't have that. I don't have the burden of that level of proof.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have the burden of that level of proof. So that was one. And what was the other?
No, it's just like, are there other things you wish you had known?
I wish I'd known that I could build a tribe, that I could say, what do I think I need to get this done? And then, the world has shifted. So I would say to somebody now, there are resources, get help. I don't know that it was as easily accessible when I was doing it. There was no Life Tool, there was no TaskRabbit, but as those things became available, I was an early adopter of TaskRabbit.
You had them rabbits jumping.
I had those rabbits. Let me tell you, and I loved it when it was the old way, when it was the Wild Wild West before it totally scaled. Man, I would have those people doing all kinds of things for me. So get help. Focus on your zone of genius. I think that's really phenomenal advice. Do what you do what I do best, and be aware of the patterns, be aware of the subconscious. My subconscious will drive me to do the same things habitually, but it's not necessarily the things that are in the interest for where it is that I'm going. And I'm going to give you I can give you a really hella practical example of that, but that's real.
Mm-hmm.
That's real.
That's
Right. So I
good.
focus on my zone of genius. That's an important thing I didn't do a lot of, and I'm more attentive to now. And I recognize that while that's my intention, my habit is still make the bed, do the dishes.
Ah, okay.
Mhm. That's right.
Um, you know, whatever the thing is that is the old version of, what got me here, but will not get me there, will not get me to where I'm going.
Susie
Um,
Francis Best is
Yeah.
shouting you out on getting help and using technology. So yeah.
Oh, and using technology. So
Mhm.
AI, like that's going to be um the whole thing now for me is all right. Let's put this engineering degree to Carnegie Mellon engineering degree to some real work,
okay.
and this daddy a computer scientist thing, channel all that and figure out how technology is going to be working for us.
All right. And so Kali, as we close, like to Susie's question, from a technology perspective, like do you have a top help help thing that you use now that you rely on? Like is it still Fiverr? Is it AI?
Um,
Something else?
Upwork.
Okay.
So Upwork is I never really kind of got into Fiverr in the same way. Upwork was always my platform of choice. And
Uh-huh.
folks I found on Upwork became employees of mine. So I
Oh wow.
really like Upwork.
Mhm.
I'm enjoying Chat GPT more and more and more. I mean, so I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm getting ready to do some deeper dives into that. I
Really?
discovered
I
a new
love it.
one. I discovered a new one just this morning, fresh off the press. It is called Vizard, VIZARD.ai. What it does is it takes video clips that you have, and converts them into shorts. And I saw it. My
Mm.
Ah,
uh, creative director showed me this morning how he just took an old YouTube video, fed it into the free version of this Vizard AI, and it created probably was a 8-minute clip,
wow.
six YouTube shorts with
Wow.
captions and emojis and all the things. One click.
Okay.
One.
Boy, technology is a thing.
Which is why I say, like, if you're scared now, scared and not moving is the equivalent of death. It's just like the train has left the station. In the moment that you've thought of something and not done it, somebody has clicked the easy button, chink, and and they are on
Mm-hmm.
their way.
Okay, y'all, we could talk about this all day. Khalid, we might have to have you back. We might have to do a technology roundtable and see what everybody's using. Susie, this is a great question. We probably should Marilyn do a little bit more about, but
Right.
we cannot thank you enough, Khalid. You have created Category of One businesses, and you, my friends, are a Category of One. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Definitely.
much for your wisdom, for everything, and again for making me look so damn cute.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for having
Khalid.
me. I appreciate you both. And thank you for
Absolutely.
all that
Oh,
you're doing for the solo CEO community, for helping people find themselves in their businesses, or their businesses in themselves.
Aw,
wonderful.
thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Kali is a baller. Connie, you're right. Kali is a huge baller. Connie knows.
Yeah.
And as before we get to our closing, what I need to shout out, because I have a very humble partner, Marilyn Johnson actually also has created a Category of One. Her business for years has been something that no one else has ever seen. And so thank you for all that you do. And if anyone's looking for another great role model, this chick right here next to me, she's the truth about that too.
Aw, thank you. Listen, I am 100% on board with Khalid. I could not do anything without the flexibility and the support of my team and just friends and community. And the best piece of advice I ever got, and Khalid shouted it out without even knowing it, was, if this thing don't work, you can go get you a job. That was 24 years ago. And I think I have been successfully unemployable at this point. I see some of my great team members online. Thank you all. But Tara, neither one of us could do it without each other, because
No.
you know, we are the two-leg table. We lean on each other hard, and you all have no idea how hard we've been working over the last couple of months. We still do have our podcast, and please check it out on the Solo CEO's website because we cover a gambit of topics. Those things that have happened to us, those things that will probably happen to you. The reason that we created this was so that the journey for new solopreneurs and even those who've been in the game for a while won't be as bumpy and as long to get to the solution that we need. So I can't say enough thank you. Tara, thank you for just being a great team partner. And
Well, and let's
y'all,
thank our other partners. So the invisible
y'all
people.
can't see behind the
I
scenes.
know behind the scenes, so Krista Winston, Jennifer Joseph, and Latoya Williamson are part of our team. You will always hear us shout them out because we could not do what we do without them. So thank y'all, even though one day you will eventually come on camera.
They refuse. We've been trying. We've been trying to do some sneak peeks, and they are just like, no, they won't give me the buttons.
Exactly. We turn everybody's cameras on if they were.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here. Please stay connected to us. If you again podcast, follow us on social media. We're also we're gonna move and do more on LinkedIn. So if you're not already connected to the Solo CEOs on our LinkedIn page, go ahead and follow that page, and you'll be able to get some of our information as we keep this party moving. And thank you for being part of our community. As Kali has said, it is so critically important. And we appreciate everything that you all do for us.
Yeah. Until later.
With that,
Bye.
get back to work, people.
Right.